Blackboard Learn QuickStart Orientation for Faculty. So today we're going to cover some basic items that will just get you started. It's not going to get you rocking and rolling completely, but just get you familiar and oriented to this new Blackboard Learn system. What we're going to cover today is logging in, course navigation, how to navigate inside of your course and between your courses, some general tool overviews including assignments, tests, discussion boards, course messages and send email, and the Grade Center. We'll also cover some stuff like how to modify your content inside of Blackboard. Again, this won't be enough to get you to be an expert inside of the system, but it will get you enough to be able to begin experimenting and exploring, and that's really where we want you to be at this the end of this orientation. So with that being said, let's get started. So today we're going to look at a very quick orientation, just enough to get you up and running inside of the Blackboard Learn system. Please feel free to take advantage of many of these additional training opportunities that I'm going to highlight inside of this video, and our face-to-face training that we offer as well. So that being said, let's look at how you're going to get into the Blackboard Learn system. The first thing to note is the URL that you need to go to. So up in the URL bar, you're going to want to enter msudenver.blackboard.com. Again, that's msudenver.blackboard.com. There's no www, it's not ending in .edu, it's msudenver.blackboard.com. Once you've entered that in, you've hit return, you will go ahead and you will appear at this login page. If this is the first time that you've logged into the system or you don't know your password, go ahead and click right down here, which is first time logging in. And if you click on this link, it's going to pull up a different page that allows you to look up your default username and password using your employee number and your birth date. Once you've completed that, you'll return back to the login page for Blackboard Learn and enter there. For additional information about how to log in, go ahead and go to sites.msudenver.edu/etc and go ahead and look for the logging in option, and this will pull up another page that actually has another tutorial that discusses more detail of how to log in. For now, we're going to go ahead and return to Blackboard Learn, and let's see about logging in. So begin by entering your username and then your password here. This will get us to the main login page, or the institutional page for Blackboard Learn. Again, if you need additional assistance, go ahead and look in one of those links below for logging in, or go over to the sites.msudenver.edu/etc for additional tutorials. From here, the first thing we want to look at being able to do is to change our password. If this is your first time logging in, you don't want that default password hanging around. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look up here in the upper right hand corner under the global navigation menu. If you click this little drop down, we're going to get a lot more options. We're going to come down to settings. From settings, we're going to go to personal information. From personal information, we click on change password, we enter our new password, we verify the password, and we press submit. For additional help on this portion of resetting your password, you can also return to the sites.msudenver.edu/etc, and right here there's a special tutorial just about changing your passwords, which will go a little bit slower and walk you through that process, or you can click one of the links right down there below. So once you've changed your password, what you're going to want to do is click back on the My Institution page right up here. This brings us back to our course list, but since we've changed our password, what I want to have everyone do is I want everyone to go ahead and log off right up here. See this little power button? Let's go ahead and click that, and we're going to log off, and then what I want you to do is log back in using that new password. Before we do, I want to point out one very other important piece of information, and that is if you have questions or need assistance, we have Blackboard support through Imbanet. And Imbanet is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year support site, and the number is 1-888-915-9535, or there's a link right down at the bottom of the login page, and they can help you with general types of information and things like that with Blackboard Learn. Trouble with logging in, they can help with password resets and things like that. So it's important to remember to go ahead and call Imbanet as kind of a first tier resource. But once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and log back in, And now we're back inside of the system. So we've used our regular username and our password that we've changed. Now we're back inside of the system. And here we're looking at the My Institution page. And the My Institution page has a lot of things going on, a lot of information. You can think of the My Institution page as kind of a global dashboard for what's going on inside of Blackboard Learn here at MSU Denver for you. So when you look at this, you can see different modules that you may have added or that are added by default, but for right now we're going to ignore most of these. And what we're really going to concentrate on is how to find the courses that you are enrolled in either as a student or as an instructor. However, if you would like more detailed information about either the My Institution page or about how to navigate through the system, there are two separate tutorials on the sites.msudenver.edu/etc site, and that would be the Navigating Basics and the My Institution page, both of which will walk you through in 5 minutes or less more detailed information of how to navigate and how to use the My Institution page, what some of these other modules are and things like that. So in this case, what I first want to call your attention to is this center column. And this is the My Courses, either students where you are an instructor or courses where you are a student. And this becomes pretty important with a distinction. We have enrolled you in 7 different training courses inside of Blackboard Learn. These are pretty good as far as getting to know the system. We also have given you 2 courses which are truly yours to experiment in. The very first one here is a 00 Blackboard Training Development course, and this is a completely blank shell. Feel free to explore, play around, break things. You can do anything you'd like inside of this shell. It's completely empty. The one thing that we're going to ask that you do not do is develop course content inside of that development shell, as it doesn't exactly export to other courses as well as you might like. So for those kind of development strategies, go ahead and call the ETC, and we can talk about some development strategies for you. For the Blackboard Learn training section, which should be the second one in your list, there's a practice course, and inside of here there are actually fake students. There's already content set up. This is an entire course that's already been built for you. It's kind of a little bit of a demo course, not necessarily best practices, but something that you can actually explore in and work around inside of. You can actually look inside of the Grade Center, and there are actual students inside of there who have submitted assignments. And what this does is it allows you to walk through the entire system and actually practice what you're learning on demo students, so that you have that opportunity to apply what you learn in a practical way. So let's look at these other training courses. Let's return to My Institution. If we notice here, we're instructors in these, but what we're looking for are the training courses that we have for Blackboard, where we are students. So what you should see inside of yours, and you won't have as many as I do, I have lots of different courses inside of mine, but you should see a 01, a 02, a 03, all the way through a 07. And what these are the different courses. And the first one is kind of an orientation, and then there's how to build courses, how to enhance communication, assessing learners, designing engaging content, building online communities, monitoring student performance. Each one of these different courses walks through a myriad of different techniques and tools inside of the system, and these can be done at your own pace. There's no requirement to get these completed. These are at your own pace, and if you only need bits and pieces of information, feel free to use them as a resource and pop in and get something if you're looking for how to make tests or how to get more engaging content. You can pop in, take a look around, and get what you need and pop back out. You don't need to complete every activity inside of these courses. They're here as a resource for you. But the nice thing is they're here at 9 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the morning. So they're here 24/7, and you will always have access to them. So they're really a great resource for you to use when you see fit. So let's go ahead and enter one of the courses where we are an instructor. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the practice course. In your case, you may actually want to locate your course from your actual course list and pop in there. So we do that by simply clicking on the course title itself. Let's do that one more time. To go to your course, what you're going to do is locate it in the course module, highlight it, and then just give it a click. and that's going to bring you directly into your course. To return to the course list, you click on My Institution. There are multiple other methods of navigating around throughout the system, but for this basic orientation, let's just stick with the My Institution and back and forth from the courses. So once we're inside of a course, let's take a look at this new layout. At the left-hand side, in fact, let me go ahead and turn this on real fast. At the left-hand side, you're going to notice this menu. Now this is the course menu. So everything from the course management up is the course menu, and this has links to all of your different content areas and tool areas inside of your course. This is the only navigation menu that your students will see as well. They don't see some of the stuff down here below. They'll only see this course menu, and you can use this to navigate throughout your course for the most part. Down below that is the course management menu, and this is where we really become the powerhouse of the course. This is where we've popped the hood and we're looking at the engine. And this is where we're really going to make our money. But for the most part, what we're going to be doing is navigating to and from and around using the course menu itself. Next, let's take a minute and look at this right up here. If you notice in the upper right hand corner, it says Edit Mode is on or off. And if I go ahead and turn edit mode off, it should be on by default, but if it's off, if you notice, everything changes a little bit. When I move over different items, I don't get those options like I did before. No little action link item appears. If you notice, this main area looks a little bit different, and what I've done is lost options. So if I go up here and click it back on, I'm going to get a whole bunch more options. Oh, look at this. I can move and drag things around now. When I move over different course menu items, I get the action link option, and that allows me to do even more. So what this is, this edit mode on and off, is basically a preview. With the edit mode off, I'm attempting to preview my content, but I can't make any modifications or changes. If I go ahead and turn it back on, this is where I can actually build, modify, manipulate, and move content. So just remember, if I'm looking to preview, go up here, and we want to turn edit mode off. And if we're looking to add, modify, delete, we want to make sure that the edit menu is on. So with the edit menu on, go ahead and practice navigating throughout your course or the practice course by clicking inside of the course navigation menu. So if we click on one of our links, like maybe assignments or units, learning modules, you'll see that the content frame changes depending on what we've selected. So the way we basically navigate throughout the course is using this course menu over here and making sure the edit mode is on or off depending on what we want to do. Down below, if we take a look at this course management area, if we look at the control panel, we can extend it or hide it. And this is where we get to things like the grade center or the grade book in this new system. This is where we can activate many of the course tools, and there really are a lot of great options inside of here. Again, this is really the engine, the powerhouse behind everything else, and we'll cover this a little bit more in just a moment. I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable. Make sure you practice navigating throughout the different portions of your course or throughout the practice course. Give them a click, move back and forth, and when you're done, let's go ahead and return to the My Institution area. So now we've gone back to the My Institution area, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back into a course. Just want to make sure that we have plenty of practice knowing how to go from area to area inside of a course and from course to course from the My Institution. For now, let's take a look at some of our tools. And in order to do that, we're going to go into the development course. And once you feel comfortable, go ahead inside of your actual courses, and that's where you're going to begin really generating, creating, and modifying your content. But for now, working inside of this development course shell gives us an area, a playground where we can play around and not be too concerned about messing anything up. Now, what you may notice is my playground looks a little bit different than yours. I've been adding and modifying and playing around for different demonstrations, and yours may appear to be a lot less full of content. The first tool that we're going to look at is actually the assignments tool, and there are multiple different ways that you can set this up, or that may already be set up from the way that your course migrated inside of Blackboard Learn. And one of the ways is to have an assignments area inside of the course navigation menu. Another way would be to have the different assignments deployed inside of your learning modules. Either way is valid. In this case, I have an assignments area set up. If you don't and you'd like to add an assignments area, what we can do is we can go ahead and return to the home page or wherever you're starting from, and in the upper left hand corner what we're going to do is hover over that little plus mark, and this is our add menu item. Okay, so if you go over the course menu and you click on the plus mark, it's going to be the add menu item, and it's going to give you some different options. To create an assignments area, what you're going to want to do is create a content area, and you would call this assignments, or whatever you're looking to do. The process is the same if you're doing this for assignments or assessments. Anything where you're going to be adding content inside of it, this is where you would do that. Make available to all users by selecting that check mark, and then go ahead and submit. In fact, I'll call this assignments 2 so we can see it appear on this navigation menu, and there it is. In this case, I already have an assignments area and an assignments 2 area, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this one since this was just for the purpose of our demonstration here. So once you've created an assignments area, or if you want to use a learning module or something like that, feel free. Go ahead and click on that area, and this is where assignments are going to be constructed or deployed. And you can see here that I already have a few items in here, but let's walk through the process very quickly. If you are looking to create an assignment, what you would do is you would go up to Assessments and then down to Assignment. From here, you're going to want to give it a name. We'll call this one assignment number 1, and you would put your instructions, or you can add it actually as an attachment. You can attach like a Word document or something like that by going down to assignment files and clicking to attach a file there, or you can use this little paper clip up here. Next, you come down, you're going to decide how many points this is going to be out of. In this case, this assignment is worth 10 points. You can also add a rubric if you want. And then you're going to want to come down and set the availability. So is this assignment available, or is it hidden? So you're probably going to want to make it available. And how many attempts do they have? A single attempt, unlimited number of attempts, or should they have a certain number of attempts? Maybe they get 3 tries. The availability here, limit availability, means that it will not appear to the student after a certain date or until a certain date. So this makes it literally invisible to the student until this date, and then after this date, it's gone. It just disappears from the students. They can't view it at all. So decide if you want to limit the availability, and that is slightly different than a due date. So just below, if you look at due dates, you can actually select a due date, and what that means is it's going to appear inside of the calendar for the students and say, hey, this is due at this such and such time. It does not preclude a student from submitting it after the due date, but it will mark it as late. And if you have a grading schema that maybe you dock 10% every 2 days or something like that, you can do that. So it indicates that it's late, but the student can still submit. If you truly do not want them to be able to submit, you select the display after date and enter in an appropriate date there, and once you do that, it will disappear and students cannot submit at that point. So if we come down a little bit further, we're going to say recipients. This is where we can determine, is it going to be for individual students or going to be for groups of students. If we set up groups inside of our course, we can use that tool to do that. Next, we click submit, and what happens is it actually creates the assignment right here inside of this content area that I'd created, and it creates a column inside of the gradebook for that assignment automatically with the appropriate number of max possible points that I put right inside of there. So that's just a very basic overview of assignments, and assessments and tests work pretty much the same way, with the exception of we're going to be adding some questions. So let me just demonstrate that very quickly, and there's a couple different ways that we could do that. We could make a new area in this course menu again and call it assessments or exams or quizzes, or I could go inside of my content, like inside of learning modules or something like that, and I could deploy a test anywhere I want. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and return. I'll just use that same assignments area, though I would highly recommend either separating that by assessments and assignments, or the best practice would really be to put the exam or quiz inside of a learning module where all the rest of the content is there, so it remains in context for the student. But the basic process is very similar to assignment. You're going to go up to assessments, and you're going to go to test. Now if you've already created a test, this is where you can grab it and deploy it, but I'm assuming in this orientation you haven't really created assessments or tests before. So here we're going to create a new test. We're going to give it a name. We're going to call it test number 1. Here we'd give a description. This is not where you put the instructions. This is a description, such as like midterm covers, from chapter 1 to chapter 7, something like that. A description, but not instructions. The instructions for the exam would be here, and this would be, I expect this to be a closed book test, or different things like that. The instructions go in that second box. Once we're done, we go ahead and say submit. And what this does is this creates kind of a test blueprint for us, but there's no questions inside of here yet. So what we need to do is actually create some questions or reuse questions if we already have them. Uploading questions is possible, but you have to have a very specific format, either from a publisher, and if that's the case, I would contact the ETC to work with them, because we have relationships with the publishers, and we can tell you what kind of file you're going to need. In addition to that, you can use something like Respondus, which can convert Microsoft Word, but you're going to want to do that again in a very particular format. So again, go ahead and give us a call at the ETC, and we'll help you out with that. So if you want to go ahead and create a question, you go over the Create Question button, and from here you can see there's a pretty good number of options. For this case, I'm just going to go ahead and do, how about a multiple choice? But there's really just a whole bunch of options that you have inside of here. I'm going to say a multiple choice. And once this question gets created, then it's going to go inside of the test. So I'll call this question 1. And here, why is the sky blue? That's my question. Now I have multiple different options inside of here, and we can decide, how is the numbering going to be? Is it going to be 1, 2, 3, ABC? You have a lot of different options and variables here. Is it going to be vertical? Is it going to be horizontal? Do you allow partial credit? Should the answers be in a random order? I always recommend putting that. But if you do that, don't say all of the above, because then whatever's above may not be appropriate, because it may be in a random order. So the correct answer is because. We all know that. Sky is blue because. And an incorrect answer could be yellow. Whatever you would put, you fill in the multiple other answers that are incorrect, making sure that you come up and you select the correct answer. You indicate that by doing the radial box right there. Next, you can provide feedback for for a correct answer. You can provide feedback for an incorrect answer. And at the very bottom, this is where you can begin adding categories and topics and level of difficulty, a whole bunch of metadata for your questions. And this is nice so that later on, if you are creating maybe a midterm and you want to reuse questions, you can have categories in here and things like that that help you pull in those questions later on to make really a new soup using old ingredients. Down here, instructor notes, these are just for you. The students will not see this area. When you're done, you can go ahead and submit and create another, or you can just submit. In this case, we're just going to submit so that now we have one question inside of our test. So we have test number 1. Inside of here, we have question number 1. And I'm going to say good to go at this point. So we go ahead and we say OK. And now we can see that, remember, we started this by trying to add a test somewhere. It says add an existing test. Now that we've created one, there's test number 1. We say submit. And now inside of our content area, it's going to say, so basically this is a link to the exam, and it's going to say, do you want to open it in a new window, yes or no? In this case, I'm just going to say no, and I can have, let's say, link to the test. And this is where we're going to now set our availability dates. So is this available? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, it's available. Students can see it. Do I want to add an announcement for this test? And if I say yes, boom, it's going to say, hey, there's a test available for you now. Do I allow multiple attempts or a single attempt? Do I want to force completion? Now this means once a test has been started, it has to be completed in one sitting. So if the student gets logged off, hey, you should have submitted it before you got accidentally logged off. If you don't click force completion, the student can log in. start taking the test. If they get kicked off, they can go to a different computer, log back in. So long as they are within that time frame, like let's say you give them an hour, they're taking the test for 15 minutes, they get kicked off, they log back in, they've lost 5 minutes, but hey, they still have the rest of that 40 minutes to complete it. They can't go over that time limit, obviously, but with forced completion, it just means when they're done, boom, it's done. They get one shot at it. Set a timer. This is how long you set that duration. Okay, and you can also submit set the auto submit. If auto submit is on, that means as soon as that timer is up, it saves it and shoots it off to you. They don't get a choice on that. If the auto submit is off, then the time will expire and will not automatically submit. Next, you have those same display after and until dates, so this keeps it invisible either before or after this time period. And you can also set up a proctor password for this exam. So this would be something if you want students to take a test in a testing center, you could use a password here, and they can only take the test once they have used that password. Now, test availability exceptions. This is a phenomenal feature inside of this system. So here we can say add a user or group. Let's say in this case it's going to be demo user. And let's look at some options here. So what this allows us to do is make exceptions for individual users or groups of users to maybe give them twice the amount of time as another student. Let's say we get an accommodation letter and we want to set it up so this student gets time and a half on an exam, or these 3 students get time and a half on an exam. This is where we can do that. We don't have to make a separate exam anymore. We can just rock right here. So what we do is we're going to say yes, they get a single attempt, and we can modify the time or something like that. We can give multiple attempts, maybe 2 attempts. So we can go through and we can modify different elements in here. If you notice, I can't give them a special time because I didn't give a time up here. So if I say set time up here, I should now be able to come down and give them, you know, what did I say above? So I'll say 120 minutes. Because they had 60 minutes, now they have 120. I can also modify, give them special availability dates and things like that. So that is the test availability exceptions option. It's really great. Next, down here is the due date. This is chances are what most folks are looking for. Many people attempt to use that availability date thing, and that's probably not what you want. What you want is a due date, because if you set this due date, students cannot take it after the due date is passed. Boom. So if you go ahead and you set that and you say do not allow students to start the test, if the due date has passed, they're cut off. They can't access it. They can see it, but they can't actually get in there and take the test. They can't see the actual questions. So this is probably the answer that most folks are looking for when they're looking to deploy their exams or quizzes. So next, you can make this as a self-assessment option. So this means it's not graded. It won't appear in the grade book. And if you select this, it's not reversible. So if you make this a self-assessment, you can't ever get it back. It's truly a self-assessment for students. You can never give it a grade. So just be very, very careful if you select that. It's something you want to be careful about and really think through. Next, what kind of results are you going to show to students? When are they going to see this feedback? So you can say after they submit, or maybe after the due date, or after availability period ends. So whenever you want the students to see their feedback, this is where you select that. You can select, should they see their score or not? Should they see all of the correct answers? Should they just see correct answers? Should they see the ones that they submitted? Do you want them to see the feedback that you provided? Do you want them to see the incorrect feedback that you provided? This is where you go through and you set those options. Next, we go down and we take a look at the test presentation. Should all of the questions be displayed at once? Should they be one at a time? Do you want to limit them from being able to go backwards? So if you say one at a time, and you don't get to go back and look at a previous question. So these are where you can set those options. One at a time is usually a pretty good idea. And if you select the randomized question, each student gets an individual question. Now this is great for integrity. If you have randomized answers and a randomized order for the exam, it does make cheating not impossible, but more challenging for sure. At the very end, when you're done, we go down and we click submit, and we're going to see that this link to the deployed exam is now in this content area of assignments where we had it before. So that's test number 1. And there it is. It's right there. If we click on it, it would take us to the exam. So that's the basics of how to add both an assignment and an assessment. If you're looking to modify either of these, what you're going to do is move over to the action link item and edit. In the case of a test, what you're going to click on is that little action link item and say edit test options if you're looking to modify like the due date or times or feedback. If you're looking to modify the questions inside of the test, you click edit the test itself. So those are the two basic methods for an assignment and an assessment. So now let's take a look at discussion boards. And if you don't have that inside of your course, you can go again up to that little plus symbol, the add menu item. And here we could create a link. Instead of to a content area, we're going to say a tool link. And we could call this discussions, discussion boards, whatever you'd like. And from the type, you're going to want to find the discussion board. So we're linking to a specific tool now instead of just a general content area, and this is going to be the discussion board, and then you could say available to all users. Now I think I already have a discussion board in there. In this case I'm going to call it discussions. Let's just see if it pops into the menu, and there it is. But we're going to go ahead and use the one that I had created above here, right here. So once you've done that, you just go ahead and click on the link that you've created inside of the course navigation menu, and yours may appear empty. Mine of course has some because I've been playing around here for a bit. But the discussion board works very similar to other learning management systems, fairly simple to use. It's a asynchronous discussion, so it's not real time. Somebody's going to post later on as a reply, and back and forth the tennis match will go. But it's not real time communication, it's asynchronous. So to create a forum, you simply click the Create Forum button, and what a forum is like a general topic, right? So it's an umbrella for the different threads that are going to go inside of there. So if we call this, I don't know, Big Top, and description would be general discussions, and we can move forward from there. So this is going to be the umbrella for something of this, I don't know, maybe instead of Big Top, let's call it introductions, and everyone's going to introduce themselves. We put in a description here. Next we come down, should it be available? Yes, I'm going to make this available to students. You have those same display until and after options here, and this is where we want to actually slow down and take a look. So the forum settings. So is it going to be a standard, everyone, when you pop in there, you can see everything and you go ahead and respond? Or this is a great new option. Participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in this forum. This allows you to pose a question or a challenge to the students, and they can't see anyone else's response until they've made their own original response. So by selecting this, like let's say you ask a question about some of the content inside of the course, the student has to respond to that question first, then they can look at everyone else's answer. Until then, it's completely hidden. So here inside of the description, if you'd post a challenge, they'd have to respond to that, and then they can see what other people have said and respond to each other. If you're just looking for the standard view, it works like normal, and everything can move forward. So what we're looking at down below that is this gradable? So if it's gradable, you can say, no, it's not gradable. You can say the entire forum is gradable, so I'm going to grade this entire topic. So I'm just going to count however many times somebody posted inside of this and the quality of their postings inside of this forum, and that's what I'm going to count. Or you can go more granular and you can grade the individual threads. So this means that you're not going to grade the forum as a whole, you're going to grade the threads inside of it. So instead of maybe introductions, this might be weekly discussion, and every week you post a new thread and students have to respond to that or something like that. So you can get more granular how you want to grade, but for the most part folks will probably just want to grade the forum itself and create different forums for different topics, and that's how you would move. But if you want to really break down a topic into more detailed level, you can absolutely do that by selecting the grade thread. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and make this worth 10 points. I can also use a rubric if I want. I can have a due date on these as well. And once I've done that, I can also say when should I be alerted that I need to grade this? Should it be every 1 post, every 5 posts that I need to grade this? So every time a student makes a post, I could be alerted, or every, let's say, after the student makes 3 posts, then I'm told, go ahead and grade this student. And that's nice because let's say we say, okay, I want you to make 1 original post and respond to 2 other people. Well, then I set the grading indicator to every 3 posts. That tells me I need to pop in and grade them. And if they've only done 2, I won't give them a grade because they haven't completed the entire thing. So that's where we can set that status indicator. Next, we can allow students to subscribe, and what this does is it allows them to subscribe, and they'll actually get an email when there are updates to a forum. It's not something you're forcing them to do, it's something you're giving them the option to do, and of course you can disallow that as well. When you come down a little bit further, you can look at creating and editing your own posts. You can allow authors to delete their own posts or not. You can allow them to edit their own posts or not. You can even force moderation of posts. This is a great option, but be careful. This means that you have to approve every post before anyone else can see it. This is great if you're looking at a touchy topic, but it does take a lot of time on the part of the instructor to make this happen, so just be aware of that. You can also do post tagging and allow members to rate posts, and for more information on this you can look inside of the training modules and inside of our sites.msudenver.edu/CTC for some tutorials on that. So next I'm going to go ahead and submit. And here it is. We've got introductions. In fact, I've added this multiple times. I guess I really want people to introduce themselves. Once we go inside of the introductions, you can see this is where the thread itself, where you can begin creating threads. You can create a different thread, and that's going to build out inside of there. And if we go back, let's take a look at one that's already built out a little bit right here. So here is an example of somebody making a post and some responses inside of here. You can see that if I haven't read it, it shows up bolded, and this is how you're going to navigate through. Again, there's more tutorials on how to use this in the discussion forums themselves. So next, let's look at another communication tool. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and demo inside of a different course, because I want you to see exactly what you're going to see in your actual course. In the course navigation menu, you're going to see a couple of different options. In general, discussion board will be linked in there, and then you're going to see course messages, parentheses, internal, and send email, which is external only. So I want to talk about these for just a moment. The course messages tool, if we give that a click, pulls us into an area where we can communicate inside of the course. So this is really siloed from everything else. It's inside of the course itself. Anything that is sent or received stays inside of the course. That means if I send a message, I need to log into the system, go to course messages and send it. And if I want to see if somebody's replied or if I have something in my inbox, I have to go into the course, go to course messages, and actually check it there. So this is internal to the system and does not go outside of the system at any point for any reason. It is very compartmentalized, very siloed to each individual course. So if I am teaching 7 different courses, each one has their own course messages, and I have to log into each different course and check them. That can be a little bit tedious, but it's also really good for keeping things in order. So I don't have to be concerned about which student is responding from which course. I know that when I'm in this course, all the messages are right here. So this is one area where you can use. And if you don't want to use this, if this just seems cumbersome to you, you can hover right over the item inside of the course navigation menu, select that action link item, and say hide link. And that will make it disappear from the student perspective. We can see right there, hey, they can't see this. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. So again, course messages are stuck just within inside of the system itself. And that's where it stays. So it's great for compartmentalization, bad if you want to have this go outside of the system. Next, let's take a look at the send mail option. Now notice it says send mail and not email, because the only thing that this tool does is send mail externally. So I can select that, and I can decide which student I want to send it to, maybe all students, something like that. This is something I could even log in before the course starts and click on all students and users, and I could send an email to them. And in this case, actually, I don't have any students to send it to. I could send an email to all of these students before the class even starts using this tool, because it goes external to the system. It does not stay inside of the system at all. It goes out, goes to their MSU Denver account. So in the case of students, that would be to their Gmail account, and in the case of faculty, it would go to our Exchange account. So when we send this email out, great, it goes out. The students will get it, or other faculty will get it. And then when they respond, it does not return inside of the system. It never returns inside of the system. That's why it says external only. So when they reply, it goes to our external email account. So it will go to our Exchange account or our Gmail account, and that's where it goes. Now, it won't go to your private Yahoo or anything like that. It's just whatever this your official university email. That's where it will go to. So again, the send email tool is external only. You can pop in there and you can send emails out. You can even add attachments. It's great, but it goes to their external email account. There is a nice thing. It does include the title of your course in the subject line automatically, which is very, very nice. And then when folks respond, it will go to your inbox, your actual email inbox, and does not return to the course itself. Next, let's look at how we can actually modify content inside of the system. So let's say we've uploaded some content, or we've generated something inside of Blackboard Learn. Let's see how we can modify that content. So if we go inside of, let's say, a content area, and we want to modify maybe the overview. If this is an HTML document, what we're going to do is we're going to hover over it, we're going to get that action link item, and we're going to see two different options. One is edit, and edit just gives us options to modify like a description for this link. It really doesn't modify the content itself. We can do things like edit the availability and things like that, but that's not what we're looking for here. What we want to do is click on that action link item and go down to Edit in Blackboard. Once we've selected Edit in Blackboard, we actually get a WYSIWYG editor, a what you see is what you get editor, that is pretty nice and pretty powerful. It functions very similar to Microsoft Word. We can see all of our different formatting options up here. If you don't see them all, it may be that you have this little expand options or the show more button deselected. So just expand it to see all your different options. There are really some great things you can do inside of here, and it's as easy as typing just like we would in any other system. We can highlight it, we can bold, we can underline, we can do all those different kinds of things. So as we move through here, this is how we would modify any type of HTML content, by using that edit in Blackboard. So again, let me show that one more time. If we select that action link item to modify something, we don't want to use the edit, we want to use the edit in Blackboard anytime we see it. File types that Blackboard will not edit are things like PowerPoints and Microsoft Word and PDFs. Those can't be edited inside of Blackboard itself. You'll still need to download those, modify them, and upload them back up. But the basic overview of edit in Blackboard versus edit is that if ever you see edit in Blackboard, go ahead and select that, because that's going to be the option you're going to use to modify the content itself. So finally, I'm going to go ahead and pop back into our demo course here, our practice course, and let's take a look at the Grade Center. The Grade Center has changed pretty dramatically. So let's take a peek at this real fast. The Grade Center itself, if we come down to that course management area, this is again that powerhouse area, we see the Grade Center. If we give this a click, it's going to expand, and there are a whole bunch of really great features inside of the Grade Center. And we're only going to be able to touch on a few of them here in this brief orientation, but there are so many wonderful things. I highly recommend receiving more training on this area specifically. The Grade Center, let's go ahead and select Full Grade Center. By default, that's the one you can go to. If you click this little arrow here, that's the one it will take you to. But the Full Grade Center shows you every column. But you don't necessarily need to do that every time. You can do what's called Smart Views, and you can set those up and just look for one of our other tutorials on how to do those, where you can only see tests, or maybe only assignments, or only discussions. And you can set that up to filter so you see a custom view of the Grade Center however you would like to see it. So inside of the Full Grade Center view, we can see right here, we can see the Grade Center itself. We can see all the students listed inside of here, and then we can see each of the different columns for the different gradable items inside of our course. So whenever we've created an assignment or a test or a discussion area, and we've told the system that it's gradable, it will automatically set up a column inside of the Grade Center for you with the appropriate amount of max points and everything. It's really pretty slick. So right here, I can see that there are multiple different indicators. So right here, I can see check marks, which means that item has been completed. Here, I can see this little yellow exclamation point, and it's saying that it needs grading. So if I popped into Unit 1 quiz, and I could actually grade this from here, what I would do is, instead of clicking on the exclamation point itself, because I could put in a grade here, but I haven't actually viewed their attempt. So I'm not actually going to do that. What I'm going to do is click on the action link item and go down to their attempt. So if I click on that student's attempt, it's going to pull up their actual test answers, and I can look through and I can see, okay, what did they do, what did they submit, and I can go through and then I can supply them with a grade for that specific exam. So if I click on the test information, this is where I can see some additional information. In this case, they got 0 out of 50 points. It took 1 minute. Clearly this was me just playing around and trying to test out the system. So let's go ahead and return to Full Grade Center, and let's take a look at maybe grading an assignment. So assignments have some great new options inside of them as well. So let's find maybe the Planet paper assignment. Okay. So here again I can see that there are some folks who need grading for the Planet paper, and I could select that item and then give a grade, but that's not what we're looking to do. We want to view the attempt. So we're going to click on that action link item, we're going to go down to the attempt, and this is going to bring up the student's actual attempt. So since they've submitted it in Microsoft Word, and I've actually done some markup on this as well, I can see their paper, and I can actually go through and I can highlight and I can grade and I can make comments inside of it by going up to the comment area, and I can say maybe I want to make a point comment and I want to say right here, great, and I can actually make these different kinds of comments inside of here that allow students to get feedback just like we would on pencil and paper. And we can go through and there's lots of different options. We can add text right inside the document. We can select different colors, we can do all sorts of different things, we can make different comments, and the whole thing lists out. And for students, it's really, really great. They really get an incredible amount of feedback, and this is using a system called Crocodoc. At the very end, when I'm all done, and I feel very confident with the markups that I've made, I'm going to say the student got 75 out of 100, and I can give some general feedback here. And then what I can also do is I can come down and add notes. Now these notes are private just for the instructor. Students will never see them, but there are things if I want to keep track of, like maybe the student is using too many Wikipedia entries, something like that. I can put that information here. And finally, when I'm done, I can say submit. Or if I don't want to go ahead and do all the markup right inside of here, I can download their paper still, just like we could in other systems. I just click this little download button, I get that paper, I can do all my reading, and then instead of marking it all up here, I can just give them their feedback, and I can actually attach the document right here and send it back to them that way as well. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and submit. And so I have now graded this student, and what the system does is it automatically moves me to the next student who needs grading for this assignment. So that's a very, very basic discussion of the Grade Center. And let's take one more look at it, because there are some other features inside of here that are really phenomenal. And one of them is the fact that you can set up total columns, running total columns, things like that will calculate students' grades, weighted values, and these are really phenomenal systems. So maybe let's say I say that all tests are worth 30% of the overall course, but I have one test that's worth 50 points, one test that's worth 1,000 points, and one test that's worth 16 points, but all that should mush together and come out to be 30% of the course grade. You can do that now with weighted total columns, and the system will just take care of the math for you. That's something you're going to want some additional training on, but the capabilities are certainly there inside of the system. Same with running totals and things like that. The system is really set up to do a lot of the calculations for you. So that's just a basic overview and a glance at the Grade Center. There are lots of other things inside of here, such as how to set up smart views, which filter what we're going to see, and setting up categories for different items, like assignments and things like that, where you can use. Very, very powerful system. But in the end, what we've done is we've gone through and we've covered how to log in. We've covered resetting passwords and things like that. We've covered the course location, how to navigate between my institution and how to navigate back into a course. We've looked at the course navigation menu itself, how to navigate all around through there. We've discussed the edit mode on and off. We've gone through And we've looked at the difference between the course menu and that management menu that was back down there on the left, that powerhouse, that engine. We've also looked at general tool overview of how to do assignments and how to do tests, discussion boards, course messages, emails, grade center, how to modify content, that whole thing about edit in Blackboard versus just edit. So we've covered a lot of information. We've talked about if you need that 24/7 support, that MNet is there. We've discussed the sites.msudenver.edu/etc for those quick tutorials, and also to contact the ETC directly for face-to-face trainings and other general help. So I hope that this overview has helped. Again, at the end of this, we're not expecting for you to know everything, but just to be aware that there's a lot of stuff. This is granted the snowflake at the tip of the iceberg, but at least it's a good starting point. So please let us know if you have any questions, and good luck.